Hey, welcome to Red Right to Left. So, the end of November is just around the corner. You know what that means? Well, for Americans like myself, it means it gets dark out earlier, football season's in full swing, and we're right in the middle of the big holiday rush at the end of the year, which means we all want to kill ourselves. For Floridians like myself, it means it gets just cool enough outside that we give a little bit of thought to maybe wearing a jacket out. And of course, it's the week of Thanksgiving. Yeah, Thanksgiving, that day of the year when we put aside time to spend with our families and celebrate what we have rather than what we want. Somehow the media celebrates this by showing parades and football on TV, but those things aren't what Thanksgiving is about. Nah, the most important thing about Thanksgiving is the food.
Turkey, potatoes, cranberry sauce, apple pie, pumpkin pie, that pumpkin cheesecake my relatives know how to make.
It's all so good! So, in celebration of the holiday that encourages Americans to gorge themselves even more than usual, we're going to read a manga that's seriously all about food, Toriko.
Toriko is a fairly new shonen action manga written by Shimabukuro Mitsutoshi. What sets it apart from other shonen battle series is that it's focused around the acquisition, preparation, and consumption of delicious foods.
How the hell do you write an action manga about food? Well, you'll soon find out as we read Toriko from right to left.
I don't care if you're full, just eat it, eat it. Open up your mouth and feed it. Have some more yogurt, have some more Spam. It doesn't matter if it's fresh or canned, just eat it, eat it. Don't you make me repeat it. Have a banana, have a whole bunch. It doesn't matter what you...
It's well known that usually when you spend more money on a meal or put more effort into preparing it, the better it tends to taste. This even applies in cases where the difference is as small as throwing a frozen meal in the microwave and making yourself a sandwich.
Now what Toriko does is it takes this concept to the extreme.
The manga is set in a place called the Gourmet World, an alternative version of Earth inhabited by phenomenal creatures and plants. And by phenomenal I mean shit your pants dangerous.
So what are humans to do when such tremendous, frightening creatures occupy their world? Hunt them down and eat them, of course.
There are a number of powerful humans in this world called the Bishokuya, who are paid large sums of money to capture or kill these monsters and bring them back to civilization so they can be cooked and eaten. This is where our protagonist, the eponymous Toriko, comes in. Toriko is among the strongest Bishokuya in the world. How strong? Well, when we're introduced to him, he's fishing using a giant grasshopper as bait. While waiting, he swallows an entire bottle of 50% alcohol bourbon in one gulp. Then he takes a branch of what is identified as a tobacco tree and lights it by snapping his fingers to create friction before smoking the whole branch. Then a tremendous fish takes the bait and he hauls it up out of the water where it's caught out of the air by a giant hawk before Toriko hurls both of them to the ground to capture them both. To top all this off, he then says that the two of them are only enough for dessert and tries to capture something bigger.
This is the first time we meet the protagonist in the first chapter. I love this manga already.
So yeah, the first thing we learn about Toriko is that he's evidently never heard of the phrase everything in moderation. This guy can eat a ton. In fact, one of his titles is actually the glutton. However, as you can plainly see, all that food seems to go to his muscles. His entire fighting style is based around his tremendous strength, although it gets surprisingly flashy at times. His most basic technique is using a combination of gouging and chopping attacks with his arms.
And now here's the great part. When fighting using this technique, he refers to his hands by name, specifically fork and knife. How freaking great is that?
The manga has a really simple formula for each story arc. Toriko decides to go after a certain ingredient, runs off into the wild to get it, and beats the crap out of a bunch of things on the way to get it. Eventually he beats up one particularly tough enemy at the end. Sometimes the really tough enemy is the ingredient, sometimes it's guarding it, like if the ingredient is a plant. When all is said and done, Toriko takes his prize to a safe place and chows down. And my god, this guy can pack it away. Just look at him enjoying it. Shimabukuro makes it painfully apparent that eating the food that Toriko gets to eat is like going to heaven and back. I'm not really one to focus on the art in the manga, but Shimabukuro makes this food look delectable, from the time you see it sitting unprepared, to when it's being cooked, to when it's being eaten, to the expression on Toriko's face once he's finished. In just under a year and a half of its run, the manga has portrayed half a dozen cuisines that, should you eat them, will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for a normal person, but you will never, ever have that miraculous food, no matter how much this manga will make you want it.
That's why reading this manga always makes me hungry. Now, make no mistake, there's more to Toriko than just the food gimmick. Besides the action scenes being genuinely exciting, That's a pretty strong cast, partially because the cast is small for right now.
Starting from the first chapter, Toriko is accompanied on most of his journeys by a young cook named Komatsu. Komatsu is the head chef at a 5-star restaurant, but in general he's a very plain young adult, and he provides a more human view of the world. Basically, we the readers tend to see things as Komatsu sees them, and also learn things as he learns them. So for instance, along with Komatsu, we learn that Toriko is stronger than even his tremendous muscles indicate, that there's something very inhuman about him that isn't explained immediately. But we also learn that despite his tendency to kill and eat so many animals, Toriko can also be very friendly towards them. It's a weird discrepancy, but Toriko absolutely refuses to kill any animals unless they are to be eaten.
Sure, that logic wouldn't get Pete off this case, but it's certainly preferable to him being a psychopath.
Toriko's empathy for animals eventually leads to him adopting a young female wolf. He names the wolf Terry, and she also accompanies Toriko on a number of his adventures. It remains to be seen exactly what role Terry will play in the series, but it's apparent that she's very strong despite her age, due to her being a member of a legendarily strong species called battle wolves.
Which, now that I think about it, sounds like an 80s cartoon series.
One thing we learn early on about Toriko is that he belongs to a group of legendary Bishokuya called the Four Heavenly Kings. These guys are every bit as monstrously badass as Toriko, although their styles are distinctly different. First there's Koko, or a fine, turban-wearing man who works as a fortune teller on the side. Compared to Toriko, Koko has a more subdued personality, and he really doesn't seem to have any outstanding quirks. Except that he tends to see death omens on people, but I'm trying to avoid spoilers. Koko's powers stem from the fact that his entire body is full of various types of poisons, which he can use in a variety of ways.
Now, you may be thinking to yourself, poison? His power is poison? That's not impressive, that's boring. He sneaks up behind someone and poisons them? Whatever.
Well, how about this? Koko can secrete poison from any part of his skin, shoot out globs of it like bullets, and even combine it with the platelets in his blood to harden it into a sword.
That is just so ridiculously over-the-top awesome that I can't even snark at it.
There's also Sani, who... Damn, that's a lot of hair! Man, this guy is so ridiculously feminine that I think he might even be a parody of typical Bishonens. Sani is very shallow, absolutely obsessed with beauty. In fact, all his favorite foods have some sort of quality which improves the consumer's physical appearance in some way. Actually I should take this opportunity to talk about the full course menu. Every Bishokuya has the habit of writing a personal full course menu, a compilation of favorite foods that he or perhaps she has eaten during his or her career. Toriko's menu starts off completely blank at the beginning of the series, and he's been gradually filling it out during the manga's run. Anyway, back to Sani. It turns out that his hair, his wonderfully sexy mane of hair, it's only a tiny portion of all of his hair. Most of his hair is actually composed of extremely long microscopic threads which he can actually willfully control, much like that one villain Sedusa from the Powerpuff Girls. So yeah, Sani is just as ridiculously powerful as Koko and Toriko, because with his countless super long hairs following his command, he can perform tremendous feats of strength with his hair, while also performing extremely dexterous maneuvers, even to the point of performing makeshift surgery, again, with his hair. Now that I think about it, Sani is actually pretty disgusting, but moving on. The last of the Four Heavenly Kings is Zebura, who hasn't made an appearance in the manga yet. Considering what these three are capable of, and the fact that it's been stated multiple times that Zebura is in prison, I'm looking forward to his appearance. There are a couple of minor characters that Toriko and Komatsu meet during the series, but the one that I want to comment on is Rin. Rin is kind of interesting. I can't remember another female shonen character being so average looking. Usually shonen girls tend to be either reeking of sexuality, less than 10 years old, or deliberately unattractive. By comparison, Rin looks kind of ordinary. Rin is Sani's younger sister, but she has no superpowers to speak of. Instead, she uses a pair of wrist-mounted gas sprayers to shoot various pheromones and odors at creatures, which can have positive or negative effects. Her most prominent personality trait is that she has a tremendous crush on Toriko, but thankfully this doesn't seem to affect her judgment when it counts most. Like a lot of the characters in the series, she hasn't quite been fleshed out much yet, but I like her.
So here we have a good cast of heroes, but having them brave the elements and fight wild animals can only hold up for so long. That's where the villains of Toriko come in and really cement the manga status as great. Because we have fun characters, exciting action, the comic relief is funny, the food looks great, and the villains are intimidating.
The only villains to appear so far all belong to an organization known as the Bishoku Kai, a group bent on, and this is not a joke, controlling all of the ingredients in the gourmet world.
Now that sounds sort of silly up until you consider a couple of things.
Ignoring even the market price of the foods that Toriko alone brings in, each of which rake in hundreds of thousands of dollars at the lowest, it's obvious that a lot of money is spent to improve the quantity and quality of food the Bishokuya bring in. Besides all the equipment made available to the Bishokuya, there are various facilities throughout the world that have such tasks as researching the behavior of ingredients or even attempting to clone them. The Bishokukai is essentially trying to control an entire industry that probably moves billions if not trillions of dollars.
Secondly, they're basically planning to control the world's supply of food. I'd like to think that would have a bit of an impact.
The Bishokukai usually send out these remotely controlled robots that kind of resemble humanoid birds. They're resistant to damage and armed with advanced weaponry, and tend to slaughter anything in their path. The first time that Toriko encounters one of these things, you just get this feeling that it's extremely frightening. It doesn't even fight Toriko, it just briefly glances at him and then goes on its way. And yet that one glance manages to get both Toriko and Coco to freak out in fear for their lives, this after they beat the ever-loving crap out of a tremendous serpent a few chapters before. And as it turns out, these robots are only the beginning, as the organization has a number of super powerful individuals as members. The fights with the Bishokukai are easily the most intense in the series so far, and the Bishokukai are only getting more interesting and definitely more freakish with each of their appearances. Unfortunately, I can't really say all that much about them since not a lot has been revealed about the organization, only their basic goals. But the build-up to each of Toriko's encounters with the Bishokukai really seems to promise something great.
Now, I've been going on and on about how much I like this series, but I don't quite think that Toriko's perfect. For one thing, some of the characters come across as very vague or bland in the way that they're portrayed, and Toriko himself doesn't have much separating him from your everyday shonen protagonist, except that he's a little bit more seasoned and mature than usual. And even the food premise is not completely original, because it's been portrayed in at least one other series, Cooking Master Boy.
But really, I just can't help but like this manga. It sucks you in from the start and you won't want to put it down. It succeeds at everything it tries to do and exposes you to a fantastic world. And damn it, but that food looks good.
So that's Toriko. Go read it. And make sure you keep your eyes peeled for an anime adaptation that's said to be in the works. Well, I'm Wire Ruler of Time. Thanks for watching. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And make sure to forget what they taught you in school. Always read right to left.